Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is what if Naruto and Hinata built an empire stronger than Konoha and Konoha begged for help part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. I don't see how the old man can go through with this when he was alive. If I knew that being emperor had this much paperwork, I'd have refused. Inside the office of the emperor, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was seated behind his desk. The 16-year-old former Konoha Jinchuriki turned emperor was at the moment going through the bane of his existence, paperwork. Fortunately for him, most of the paperwork was already completed, as he was hard at work reading and signing them off. Most of them were minor and petty disputes. One major perk about being the emperor was that there was less paperwork than that of the Hokage. The young emperor paused for a moment to regard a picture of himself when he was younger, taken back in Konoha. A picture of himself and Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage. The picture was taken shortly before the Chunin exams, Naruto wearing the cage hat and grinning like a maniac while the professor smiled, pipe in his mouth. Next to that picture was a photo of his parents, Minato and Kushina Namiaxi. Old man, you would be proud, Naruto thought, smiling fondly at the memory. I may not be Hokage, but the people look up to me, respect me as a leader. He then turned to the photo of his parents. I hope you two are proud of me. I promised to make good to honor your memories. And I've kept that promise. 1 year had passed since the Unification War. The Empire has just celebrated its first anniversary, Naruto celebrating his first year as a leader of the unified West. Since that time, Naruto has settled into his role as Emperor of the West. Despite this, he never lost track as to who he once was. Katami, Yugito, Zabuza and Sanshi made sure of that. He didn't see himself as a ninja or a samurai. More like a combination of the two. One document attracted his attention. It was from his informants located in Water Country. Apparently, there was a new Mizukage in power, and she had ended the bloodline wars which had plagued the country. Even more surprising was the fact of who was currently the Kazekage of Suna. Well, I'll be Gaara's the new Kazekage, Naruto muttered to himself, smiling broadly, reading the report from the Pakara branch in Suna. He looked at his watch. 5 minutes before the meeting of the council. This could prove to be quite interesting indeed. The emperor rose from his seat. Retrieving his jacket and slipping it over his shoulders, i.e., his Shippuden uniform, only all black, he exited the office, making sure to take the reports on Mist and Suna with him. The meeting was straightforward. Aside from a uprising of malcontents loyal to Oda which was quickly crushed before it could gain steam, and the financial situation concerning the southern Badlands, there was nothing worthy to report. Good thing that they only met 3 times a month. The council hall inside the Hall of Sovereigns was as big as the council chambers back inside Konoha. The council chambers consisted of 3 long tables, the first containing the seats of the emperor and his chief prime minister. 2 tables located on either side of the emperor's table faced each other, each containing 6 seats for either side. 6 of the members were hand-picked by Naruto himself, while the other 6 were voted in by the people of the Western Empire. The 6 that Naruto had chosen were from the West's most respected samurai and shinobi clans. Emperor Namikaze sat at the head of the table. Katami sat at his left, the council, not to mention the people of the West knowing full well about the red-headed woman's true nature. The council hall inside the Hall of Sovereigns was as big as the council chambers back inside Konoha. The council chambers consisted of 3 long tables, the first containing the seats of the emperor and his prime minister. 2 tables located on either side of the emperor's table faced each other. On Naruto's left, Sanshi, the elder samurai warrior and philosopher who had taught Naruto the ways of the samurai. In his youth, as Naruto had found out, he had fought Hiruzen Sarutobi to a draw and had respected Naruto's father figure a great deal, and grieved silently when Naruto had told him about his unfortunate passing. During the Unification War, he had invited Naruto to his village, and Naruto became so impressed with the old man that he asked to be trained in the ways of the samurai. When the empire was created, he was the first that Naruto had invited to be on the council. Despite his old age, Sanshi was well respected by samurai and ninja alike. His granddaughter, Sana Sanshi, who was a member of Yugito's Hellcats, served as part of Naruto's elite guards. Next was Eiji Kibagami, also from a respected samurai clan with connections in Iron Country, as he had family there, which was helpful when Naruto negotiated a trade agreement between the Empire and Iron. A hard-punching, hard-drinking samurai with a mouth that would make Tayuya blush and Hidan green with envy, he was the first to join up with Naruto in his ambition. Despite being a foul-mouthed samurai, he was fiercely loyal to the young emperor, honorable, and carried himself as a true samurai. It was also a known fact that he and Kasumi Ehara were romantically involved. His pet wolf, Bijumaru, was at his side. Like Sanshi, Eiji had a member of his family as part of the elite guard. His nephew Hideo Kibagami served proudly. Next to Kibagami was the head of the Chiba clan, Kota Chiba. The Chiba clan was a line of ninja who practiced a deadlier style of taijutsu that would put even Rock Lee and Maida Guy to shame, the taijutsu used originally as an assassination technique. Like Sanshi's granddaughter and Eiji's son, her eldest son, Takuma, served as one of Naruto's elite guards, a high honor for the Chiba clan. In most ways, the Chiba clan reminded Naruto of the Inuzuka, fiercely loyal to the pack. Sitting next to Kota was her childhood friend and fellow ninja, Kokura Yamada. The eldest daughter of a former nobleman and a mist refugee, she was the diametric opposite of Zabuza's partner Haku, as her attacks were fire release attacks. In an interesting side note, her bloodline allows her to endure an opponent's fire attacks unscathed. The Yamada clan also had a reputation for being top-notch healers whose skill rivaled that of Tsunade in her prime. Next to the fire-wielding mistress was the regal Kasumi Ehara. The Ehara was the most powerful samurai clan on the southern continent, in both influence and skill, and aside from the elderly Sanshi who resided on the northern continent, was one of Naruto's major supporters. Kasumi herself was a legendary warrior in her own right, having led troops into battle. Every once in a while, she would propose a marriage between her eldest daughter and Naruto, of which Naruto had graciously declined. He told Lady Ehara that he would marry for love, not for honor or prestige. That, Lady Ehara could understand, as she and her late husband were the same. When her husband was killed by Oda's hand, he was about to claim Ehara for his own. Thankfully, Naruto's arrival put a stop to those plans. Seated next to Ehara was the head of the Okajima ninja clan, Hayate Okajima. Nicknamed the Tengu, because of his habit of wearing a Tengu mask to battle, the Okajima clan were skilled in ninjutsu, assassination techniques, and rakan, and were the natural rivals of the Shinto clan, who favored open combat over covert assassinations. Naruto had approached the Okajima clan head for an alliance. Hayate was impressed by the boy's bravado and tenacity that he signed on to Naruto's side. Once the war was over, Naruto had returned to the Okajima clan their lands, which were taken from them by one of the more corrupt daimyos. In return, the entire Okajima clan swore their eternal loyalty to their new emperor. On Naruto's right, Ryuji Shinzen and his wife Haruka Shinzen, the heads of the Western Empire's premier mercantile guild, Pakara Merchant House. Ryuji was originally a mercenary ninja, while Haruka had a gift for business and management. They were the first to back Naruto in his ambition financially following the death of Rokubungi Oda. When the unification wars had reached its conclusion, they created the merchant houses, which had two purposes: providing imported and exported items across the empire and in the east, while at the same time, keeping a close eye on the more unruly villages in the east. Thanks to Naruto, they now had branches all over the country, as well as several locations in the east, some of which served for gathering intel, as in Iwa, Fire Country, and Kumo. Next was Shinoda Wakaba, former pirate captain, now a close business partner and longtime friend with the Shinzens, since his 10-boat fleet was originally used to harass and plunder both Oda's and his allies' supplies. It was Haruka who had pointed out the perks in having a fleet of ships backing up his ambition to Naruto. Now, with the war over, the fleet was now used to transport goods all over the continent, as well as in the elemental countries. In an interesting side note, the Shinzens and Wakaba were both in-laws, since the Shinzen's son had married Wakaba's daughter, which had brought their families into a close alliance. Seated next to Wakaba was Katsumoto Kitahara, a daimyo from the southern region who supported the people and working class. He was overthrown by a power-mad warlord and condemned to wander the lands, until Naruto found him. He was one of the key members in the civilian council, in which, thanks to Katsumoto, that his major support base was the civilians themselves. Katsumoto's lands were restored unto him, as well as his title as a reward for his service and loyalty. Next to Wakaba was Shin Akazuki. His home was the southern part of the continent. Shin was the youngest of the council at age 23, and trained as a samurai. The son of Shinji Akazuki, a retired warlord who had fought with Naruto, Shin had made a name for himself during the Unification Wars as a formidable swordsman, and can hold his own against Naruto in their occasional spars. In some cases, he reminded Naruto of Shikamaru at times, brilliant, but lazy. Last, was Rumika Todo. Like Katsumoto, she was a daimyo, but hailed from the north's mountainous Lajja region. Todo was one of the daimyos whose land the late Rokenbungi Oda had an eye for, since her lands contained iron mines deep within the mountains, but once Naruto had eliminated him, she saw the wise decision in backing him in his war of conquest. Her husband was the original daimyo, until his death during a raiding party from Oda's men, forcing her to assume the role. But despite this, she was fiercely loyal to both her people and to the emperor. Aside from the Imperial Council, Naruto had requested that Zabuza Mamachi and Haku Mamachi be present for this meeting. The former mist swordsman and his female partner stood before the Imperial Council, both curious as to why they were summoned to this hearing. General Mamachi, Naruto began. First off, neither you nor Haku are not in any kind of trouble, so you can relax. I've asked you and Haku to come for a reason. Zabuza raised an eyebrow. That reason being, Chief. Naruto raised the sheet of paper from the Pakara's mist branch. This came in from mist. The Mizukage is dead. Zabuza took the news well, given the fact that he had failed to assassinate Yagura years earlier. So Yagura is finally dead, Well, hoopity fooing shit. I was hoping that I would return and do the deed. But it's still good news. Yagura was always unbalanced. Who's in charge now? Naruto looked at the sheet of paper. Her name's Terumi. Mei Terumi. That caught Zabuza's attention. Mei's the god I'm now, huh? Wish it could have been me, but I like my current position. What can you tell us about this woman? Sanshi inquired. She's strong, Lord Sanshi. Very strong, Zabuza replied. Has a sunny disposition, even when she's threatening kick your SS. If she was able to kill Yagura, then she is more than capable of stabilizing the mist after so many years of war. Naruto leaned back in his chair, pondering the information he has received. Sanshi caught the look on his emperor's face. Are you planning on making an alliance with Mist and Suna? Naruto smiled at the old samurai. Am I that predictable? Sanshi smiled back at the young emperor. No, you're just that easy. That got a good laugh from the council, Naruto included. Even Zabuza laughed while Haku giggled. Once everyone has calmed down, Naruto confirmed his intentions. To answer your question, Sanshi, yes, I plan on inviting not only the leader of the Mist, but Suna as well. The Kazekage of Suna is an old friend of mine. He is a Jinchuriki, like I once was. His beast is the one-tail raccoon. Ah, Shukaku, Katami said. He was always a bit unbalanced of the bunch. Then again, I'm willing to bet that Sanbi was the driving force behind Yagura's murderous reign. What about the Kazekage, Your Majesty? Lady Ahara asked. Aside that he is the Jinchuriki to the two tails, what else can you tell about him? Naruto went into detail about how he and Gaara met during the Chunin exams back in Konoha, all the way up to the point of the ill-fated retrieval mission of Sasuke Uchiha. Afterward, he put it to a vote. All in favor of inviting the Godime Mizukage and the Godime Kazekage to the imperial capital for terms. Naruto intoned. The vote was unanimous. The council voted yes. Naruto smiled. Motion passed. This meeting is adjourned. Sunagakure no Sato, Wind Country, several days later. Lord Kazekage, there is an envoy here to see you. Gaara looked up from his paperwork. Are they from Konoha? He asked the Suna Junin that stood before him, obviously annoyed. Baki, Tamari and Kankuro both held curious looks as well. If they were from Konoha, then they would be escorted back to the country's borders. No, sir, the Suna Junin replied. They are from the Western Empire, by way of the Pakara merchant house. The Empire. That was a pretty hot topic in the elemental countries. No sane ninja had ever ventured there, yet someone around his age was able to conquer the northern and southern continents of the war-torn West and brought about peace, having been declared emperor. The other Kages knew about him, yet no one knew his name. And now, the emperor of the West was reaching out to him. The door opened and a courier ninja stepped inside. Bowing to the Kazekage, he produced a scroll with the imperial seal, a fox's head in front of a swirling whirlpool. Lord Kazekage, may you have a long and prosperous reign. I bring word from my lord, his imperial majesty of the unified West. Tamari took the scroll and handed it to her brother, the courier ninja bowing to the trio before turning on his heel and leaving. The Suna Jinchuriki's curiosity was piqued when he saw the insignia. He broke the seal and unrolled the scroll. There was no invite, but a note, brief and to the point. Gaara, come to the west. There will be a boat at the port in Wind Country in 3 days. Upon reading this message, I'll be waiting. The note was not signed, but rather had a crudely drawn picture of a certain blonde knucklehead flashing a peace sign. Gaara closed the scroll. Turning to his former sensei, he said, Baki, you're in charge until I come back. What it is? What's wrong? Baki asked. The emperor has invited me to come to the west, Gaara replied calmly. Tamari, Kankuro, you two are coming with me. One more thing. Bring Cell 3. Sarutobi and his 2 friends. Baki asked. Why them? I have a feeling that the emperor is someone we know very well, Gaara replied. Have Sarutobi, Moegi and Udon report here in 5 minutes. We leave within the hour. It took Gaara and his envoy 3 hours to reach the sea. And nearly a week to the Western Empire by way of boat. The boat had stopped in water country first before moving on to wind. Upon boarding the ship, the Suna envoy was surprised to see an envoy from Mist as well. They had heard reports about someone eliminating the insane Yagura and bringing the bloodline purges to an end. The Mist envoy, led by the Godime Mizukage herself, Mei Terumi, was also invited. Escorting her was the reformed 7 swordsmen of the Mist. Suna and Mist had some bad blood between the 2 villages, as several of Suna's clans were refugees from the Mist, having escaped from the village during the worst of the bloodline purges. Gaara had demanded that Suna release those who had fled back to the Mist. Gaara's predecessor refused. It was because of the first uprising back in Mist that Gaara had backed off. After several days at sea, the envoy had finally reached the unified West. Instead of docking at Karata port, the boat instead headed upriver. Mei was concerned and flagged down a sailor. I thought we were going to disembark here, she said. Not here, Lady Terumi, the sailor replied. Kimen City, the imperial capital. We docked there in 30 minutes. As the sailor went about his business, Mei turned to Gaara, who stood along the bow. The boat passed Karata port, and headed inland. The cages of Mist and Suna took in the scenery. To think that just 2 years ago, this land was locked in a constant state of civil war, the Godime Mizukage said. Now, you really can't tell. I always thought that the Mist and Water country had it bad when Yagura was in charge. But the stories I've heard about the West while I was a Junin about the West, whoever the emperor is, he has done something that is nothing but miraculous. Gaara agreed. The two cages stood in silence as the boat made its way upriver. Within minutes, the imperial capital soon came into view. May and Gaara took notice of the imperial complex, the home of the emperor, rose above the city. From a distance, the home of the emperor and seat of the imperial west was imposing, reminding Gaara of the Cage Tower back in Suna. The sun had set and night was about to fall. Gaara felt a kind of anticipation that he has not felt since the Chunin exams, back when Suna and Odo had invaded Konoha. Only difference was that he had the feeling that he was going to see an old friend. At the port, Zabuza Mamachi and Yugito Ni watched as the boat slowed to a stop, then was secured by the dock workers on the ground and the sailors on board. The emperor had assigned them to act as escorts to the imperial complex. Who better to escort the cages of mist and sand than a ex-Kumo Kunoichi, Jinchuriki and a former mist swordsman? The two generals who fought alongside Naruto were dressed in their respective uniforms, Yugito in her old Kumo uniform and the khaki Junin flak vest, a signature trademark of the Hellcats, the all-female fighting force which she founded, and for Zabuza, his favorite camo fatigues from his days as a missing ninja. Like Yugito, he also wore a Junin flak vest, only his was dark blue, the trademark of his own Black Ops unit, the Demon Squad, of which he founded alongside Haku. His oversized sword was slung over his shoulder. The gangplank was lowered, and the two cages and their envoys started to disembark from the boat. Almost immediately, Yugito's senses went haywire. Kitten, the two tails hissed. He's a Jinchuriki. I know. Naruto told me, Yugito replied. It's Shukaku. Nibi was surprised. Shukaku. That oversized rodent. He managed to get himself sealed. Looks that way, Yugito replied. Keep it down. The monster cat went silent as the two cages and their respective envoys approached the pair. Almost immediately, the 7 mist swordsmen went for their swords, but May ordered them to stay their hand. Do not attack him, May ordered. But he is still a missing nin. One of the swordsmen objected. Granted that he tried to kill Yagura, but still a missing nin. And he is in the employ of the emperor, May pointed out. I will not see the mist wiped out because you tried to kill a ninja who answered to the emperor. Once that situation was diffused, May turned to Zabuza. Zabuza Mamachi. Demon of the mist. I thought you were dead. One of these days, maybe. I almost came close, Zabuza replied, bowing. Lady Mizukage, welcome to the capital. He introduced Yugito. General Yugito Ni, commander of the Hellcats. Yugito, God, I'm Mizukage May Terumi. Yugito bowed in greeting. Gaara's eyes narrowed slightly as he recognized the aura surrounding the blonde ninja. You're a Jinchuriki. That I am, Yugito replied. So are you, Lord Cage. Nibi identified yours as the one tail. Nibi, the two-tailed monster cat, Gaara confirmed. So what's a kunoichi from Kumo doing here in the west? Tamari asked, ready just in case that Yugito attacked. I no longer serve the cloud, Yugito replied. I was betrayed by the Kumo High Council without the knowledge of A and B. The council sold me out to the Akatsuki. The emperor saved my life. I've been at his side ever since. Tamari calmed down after that. The Akatsuki was also a hot topic aside from the emperor. They had went underground following the disappearance of Naruto and Yugito, but there were reports of them resurfacing. Any village who had a Jinchuriki were in a state of high alert, or those Jinchuriki who were wandering had went underground. The emperor sent you to meet us? Gaara asked. Yugito nodded. Yes. Consider us your personal escort to the boss. He is waiting for you at his home. I always thought the people of the West were different, May said as Zabuza and Yugito walked through the open-air market of Kimin. Now I see that everyone's the same, from the style of clothes to the same food. The boss and I thought the same thing when we first came here, Yugito said. Of course, this was back when Oda had ran the place. It wasn't as lively as it is now. The living conditions were horrible. Oda was leeching off the people, demanding tribute upon tribute. He killed the men who did not comply and raped their wives and daughters. One girl he used as X toy after cutting off her limbs and tongue, after eliminating her family who dared to oppose him. When he got tired of her, he tossed her to his troops. When the boss found her after we had killed off Oda, even he was appalled at the barbarism that Oda had done. He did the right thing and granted her a mercy killing. Temari and Mei paled at Yugito's story. Even the mist swordsman and the other Suna ninja looked sick. The boss spent 3 months consolidating his power base here, Yugito continued. It was then he decided to launch his own war. A war to unify the continents. Most of the warlords here fought only for land and to subjugate the other. He fought to unify the lands under his banner, to bring about an everlasting peace, something that the West has not seen since the era of the Six Paths Sage. From the look of things, he has succeeded, Temari noted. This place feels so alive. Only took the chief 2 years, Zabuza said. I was one of the many who came to his side. All of the tyrannical warlords were wiped out, while those who were smart enough not to fight flocked to his side, while others supported him financially. 1 year to unify the northern region, and another year to unify the southern region. We just celebrated our first anniversary of the empire unification a couple of weeks ago. He should have invited you two here earlier. You would have had a blast. I'm sure we would have, Mei said as the party passed 2 members of the Hellcats, identified by the same type of flak vest that Yugito wore. The 2 Hellcats greeted their supreme commander, to which Yugito responded with a nod. And here we are, Zabuza said as they approached the Imperial complex. The massive doors were open, but were guarded by members of both the Hellcats and the Demon Squad. Passing by their subordinates, Zabuza and Yugito led the visiting party inside the complex. Wow, Mei said, looking around. Nice setup the Emperor has. The Imperial Palace sits at the center of the complex, Zabuza explained. As you can see, the place is heavily guarded by both ninja and samurai. Not only does the Emperor live here, but he also meets with the Imperial Council inside the House of Sovereigns and entertains guests inside the reception hall. We even got some barracks here for them to stay in. Since the Emperor's a seal master, his main home is warded off from intruders. He should be inside the House of Sovereigns now. We're heading there now. In that case, lead the way, Gaara said. House of Sovereigns, throne room. Dressed in black, complete with his black cage-style hat concealing his face, Naruto sat on his throne, Katami at his side. He had received word that Gaara and Mei had arrived safely and had just entered the House of Sovereigns. General Kazuma had verified that both cages were accompanied by their personal escorts. Naruto, however, was curious as to why Gaara had a squad of genin tagging along. Temari and Kankuro, he could understand, but a squad of genin. Naruto shrugged it off and straightened himself in his seat, as the Cage of the Mist and the Cage of the Sand entered his throne room, followed by their respective escorts. Naruto was thankful that he was still wearing the cage-style hat, otherwise, he would have been surprised to see Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon among the Suna envoy. Even more surprising was that they wore the Hitai-8 with the Suna hourglass identifying them as Suna ninja. Gaara, in the meantime, narrowed his eyes at the red-headed woman that stood beside the throne. Shukaku was speaking to him, but he ignored the rodent. As their respective entourages remained behind, the Cage of the Mist and the Cage of the Sand stepped forward. Stopping 3 feet before the throne, they bowed. The Emperor responded with a nod of his head. Gaara of the Sand, Godime Cage of Suna. Mei Terumi, Godime Mizukage of Mist, welcome to my home. We are honored to be here, Your Majesty, Mei replied. Naruto rose from his throne. The look on your face says it all. Why are the both of you here, and why did I invite you to my lands, correct? He inquired as he stepped down to face the 2 cages. In that case, prepare to be enlightened. The young emperor reached up and removed his hat, tossing it to a valet that was standing nearby. Gaara had his suspicions when he was delivered the invite, but despite the missing whisker-like marks and his hair taking on a reddish tint, This had all but confirmed it. Tamari and Kankuro were at a loss for words, since they were facing the last person they would expect to be Emperor of the unified West. Boss. Oof. Naruto grunted as he was tackled to the floor by Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon. The guards inside the throne room couldn't help but to chuckle at their emperor's antics. Despite being the most powerful person on the continent, he was still a teenager. Even the mist swordsman had a laugh. Katami cracked a smile at the sight of Naruto being dog-piled by the three junior ninja. Knock it off, you three, Gaara ordered. Give him some breathing room. Once Naruto managed to pry himself from Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon, he straightened himself off and faced the two cages. He greeted Mei first. Lady Kazakage. Welcome to Kimen. Zabazaz told me quite a bit about you. He did, didn't he? Mei replied. Good things I hope. Anything bad would ruin my reputation. Although I am curious as to how you know the demon of the mist. We met 4 years ago, back when I was a genin, Naruto explained. He then gave both cages a quick summary of the mission to Wave Country and of his run-in with Zabuza and Haku. I later found out that both were alive. Turns out the Zabuza and Haku my team and I fought were nothing but advanced blood clones. Zabuza had taken off when the Mist Hunter ninja arrived sooner than expected. He was one of many that helped me unify the West. Mei turned to Zabuza. I am honestly impressed, Mamachi. Of course, you will give me the whole story later on, she said, smiling sweetly, yet her tone showed that there was no room for argument. Zabuza gulped. Of course, Lady Mizukage. In the meantime, Naruto had turned to Gaara. The two leaders shook hands. Gaara, congratulations on your promotion to Kazekage. Gaara smiled. And you, Uzumaki. It's clear that you have once again outdid me. I never thought it would be you who would unify the West. Congratulations to you on accomplishing such a feat. The people here are not unlike those back in the East. They never knew peace, Naruto explained. Not since the era of the Six Paths Sage. At least back east we had some sort of peace and order. He gestured to the three genin. How'd you end up with those three? It was after you were banished that the Suna Council sent an envoy to Konoha, Gaara explained. Tamari was with them. When the Konoha Council explained why you were banished, we terminated our alliance with the Leaf. Sarutobi and his two friends had caught up with Tamari and asked to come with her. They knew about your burden as the Jinchuriki and when the banishment order came down, decided to desert the village in favor of Suna. How did Asuma take the news? Naruto asked. He tried to stop us from leaving, pleaded with me to stay, the young Sarutobi said. Said that families should stick together. But we couldn't stay. Not after how the council treated you after you brought back that traitor. I haven't spoken with him since that day. Naruto tapped the Hitai that his former protege wore. So you're a genin of Suna now. Congratulations. I always had faith in you, Konohamaru. In all of you. It's Maru now, Maru corrected. I changed my name when I arrived in Suna, boss. That was the last thing that connected me to that village. Whenever people called me by Konohamaru, it reminded me of you and of your sacrifice. It brought back so many bad memories. Maru, show some respect, Tamari scolded. Naruto waved her off. It's okay, Tamari. Maru's been calling me boss ever since Konoha. It's his way of showing respect towards me. In any case, it's good to see you again, Naruto, the wind mistress said as she hugged the younger man. You're grown too. Last time I've seen you, you were nothing but a sprat. It was indeed true. Naruto barely stood over 5 feet back in Konoha. Now, he was clearly a foot taller. 4 years of hard training and fighting tends to work wonders. He turned to Kankuro. Still into your puppets, I see. Improved any? Kankuro grinned. You can be more than happy to find out, kid. He shook Naruto's hand. Good to see you're still alive. Can't die just yet. The people need me. He then introduced Katami. My chief prime minister, Lady Katami Akashiya. Katami bowed in greeting. As she did so, Shukaku recognized her aura immediately. She is the Nine Tails. Shukaku screamed in Gaara's mind. She is the Kyuubi in human form. Katami saw the look on Gaara's face and could only guess as to what the one tail was saying to its container. So Shukaku figured it out, huh? She asked, smiling meanly. How is the rodent? Hey, I resent that, Shukaku shouted. Shut up, Shukaku, you're giving me a headache, Gaara muttered. To Katami, he said, is it true? You're the Nine Tails. That I am, Katami confirmed. Tamari and Kankuro blinked. They looked at the female redhead, who was looking on with a smug look. This was the same nine-tailed fox that they seen during the Sunaoto invasion. Maru, Moegi and Udon already knew about Naruto's secret, but was surprised to find out that the Nine Tails was a woman. Are you sure, Gaara? Kankuro asked. She can't be the most powerful of the Biju. That was when Tamari tapped him on the shoulder, before pointing at the Empire's Prime Minister. When Kankuro looked in her direction, he first felt the wave of killer intent directed at him. Then his jaw hit the ground, as did everyone else's save for Gaara and the Neo Maru Corps. You were saying, Kankuro? Katami asked sweetly as her nine tails snaked around her eyes glowing an inhuman red, the pupils slitted. The puppet master waved his hands in a placating manner. Okay, I'm convinced. Please don't kill me. Well, since you said please, Katami replied as the tails vanished, her eyes reverting to normal. Show off, Shukaku muttered. It's true that Katami is the strongest of the tailed beasts, but they are not demons as most people would think, Naruto explained. We Biju are more connected to nature, Katami seconded. But after we were separated from the 10-tailed beast, some pompous little pedant had the brilliant idea to turn the tailed beasts into weapons by sealing them inside humans, creating the Jinchuriki. As to how Katami is free, I studied the seal and reversed engineered it. I freed her with all 9 tails of power. That much is true, Shukaku confirmed it. One thing about us Biju is that we are incapable of lying. Okay, enough talk, Naruto said. You must be hungry and tired from your trip. Consider yourselves guests in my home. He summoned a valet who was standing nearby. Take them to the guest quarters. See to their comfort. Yes, Your Majesty, the valet said. Later on following dinner, Naruto entertained his guests with past war stories. May, on the other hand, had hauled Zabuza off to raid the Imperial Palace's sake stash. It would be late night when a shit-faced Mizukage and a equally sloshed commander of the demon unit staggered into the Imperial Palace's guest room. Zabuza did a face plant into the couch, while May staggered to her guest room. Rather than retire to her own chambers, Katami shifted into her fox form and founded a shaded area within the complex's grounds and fell asleep there. Naruto and Gaara were on the balcony of the guest quarters, overlooking the city. I think it's safe to say that Tamari has fallen in love with Kimon City, Gaara noted. You've proven to be the most unpredictable ninja once again, Uzumaki. You think the city's nice? Wait till I tell her about the hot springs resort in the mountains, Naruto replied. She'll never want to leave then. The Suna Jinchuriki cracked a small grin. I'll bet. Tamari always loved hot springs. The ninja back home always talked about the West, that going there is for the foolish and the crazy. Not even Orochimaru or the Akatsuki would even dare to come here, let alone Konoha. Naruto frowned. He knew that this would come. What's been happening ever since I left? From what I managed to hear, the council pardoned the Uchiha for his attempted defection, Gaara said. They place the blame on both his cursed seal and on you. After your banishment, every single alliance and trade agreement that Konoha had because of you were dissolved. Wave, snow, hot water. Konoha is a virtual pariah in the shinobi world. Wherever they go, they are not welcome. In some cases, they are not allowed entry into some of the towns, forcing their ninja to go in using henges and aliases. I bet they blame me for that too. Naruto was not the least bit surprised with Gaara's reply. They do, the redhead replied. After talking for several more minutes, the two leaders decided to retire for the night. After all, tomorrow would be a big day for all parties involved. The following day, a special meeting was taking place inside the House of Sovereigns. The Emperor had convened his Imperial Council, and this time, the two cages were present. Two more chairs were placed at the head table. Gaara and Mei sat on Naruto's right, while Kotami remained on his left. Naruto himself dressed for the occasion, his white shirt, black vest, long coat, pants and boots, while Gaara and Mei were in their respective cage robes of state. This meeting of the Imperial Council is now called to order, Naruto announced. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce to this council, Godime Kazakage Gaara of the Sand. Gaara rose from his seat and bowed. And Godime Mizukage Mei Terumi. Mei followed suit. Once both cages were seated, Naruto continued. This is the Imperial Council. You already know my Prime Minister, Kotami Akashiya. After Naruto got through introducing the council members to the two cages, the meeting was underway. Thanks to our Emperor, the Empire is strong, Sanshi began, but even the strongest of the nations can use an ally or two. His Imperial Majesty spoke highly of you, Lord Kazekage, and General Mamachi also praised your leadership abilities, Lady Mizukage. Which is why we are here to discuss terms of a military and trade alliance. Go on, Gaara prodded. At Naruto's nod, a valet approached the head table and placed two binders in front of Gaara and Mei before retreating back to his original post. The terms are agreeable and very generous, Sanshi continued. We already have branches of the Pakera merchant house in both Suna and Mist, which is already covered in the trade agreements. As for military aid, it's really quite simple. If you ever need a hand, then the Empire will come to your aid. There's a catch, isn't it? Mei asked, leafing through the document. Yes, Naruto replied. Only one condition. That the both of you will allow an imperial consulate in your respective villages, and in response, I will allow a Suna and Mist consulate to be placed here in the capital. Of course, my representatives will follow and honor the rules of your respective villages, and your representatives will honor and respect the rules of the empire. The representatives you appoint will answer directly to you, and the same applies with my representatives. As an added bonus, you get your products at a reduced price through the Pakera shops. Can we assign a garrison of ninja to defend the embassy if necessary? Gaara asked. Naruto nodded. I see no problem with that, as long as I can do the same. There's 2 compounds in the city that are empty. You can use them if you wish. So, do we have an agreement? Gaara and Mei exchanged glances. It took them only a moment to decide. Within seconds, their signature and their Hanko seals was on the documents, followed by Naruto's own. 1 month had passed since the unified West, Suna and Mist had formed their alliance. Their respective consulates were in place in both East and West. In Kimen, the Suna representative was Tamari herself, having volunteered for the position. Her reason? She wanted a change of scenery and she had grown quite attached to the imperial capital. Naruto suspected that the hot springs resort in the Laja Mountains may have had an influence in Temari's decision. At least Gaara sent someone he trusted. Mei had sent a former Mist swordsman who was also a relative of hers as the Mist representative. In truth, her family had adopted him and he took on their family name. Takeshi Terumi. Naruto had emerged from a meeting of the Imperial Council in high spirits. Ever since Yukie had started to film her movies here, the Western Empire has seen a major boost in tourism, particularly at the resort towns of North Tomo in the northern region and Tears Point in the south. Even the annual tournaments were beginning to draw in ninja from the east, hoping to make a name for themselves by taking on the best the West has to offer. They all failed. Miserably. The main reason for Naruto's good mood was that he had no paperwork to do. Actually, he did, but he left that to the shadow clones, allowing him to meditate and train. He was a hands-on type of emperor, but even he needed a break from the paperwork. Upon exiting the House of Sovereigns, Naruto was met by a Suna Junin, one of many who was part of the Suna garrison assigned to the Suna consulate. He was accompanied by Maru, Moegi and Udon. Lord Emperor, the Suna ninja greeted, taking a knee. Hey, boss, the 3 genin greeted, bowing to the older teenager. Maru, what are you three doing here? I thought you were in Suna, Naruto said. Ordering the Junin to rise, he asked, what is it? The Suna ninja produced 2 scrolls with the Suna seal. From Lord Cage, he said before vanishing in a poof of smoke. Naruto looked at the scroll for a moment, before breaking the seal and opening it. It was a note, from Gaara to him. Lord Namikaze, if you are reading this, then Sarutobi and his friends have arrived safe and sound. The Chunin exams are 6 months away and their Junin sensei was injured in a minor skirmish with ninja from the cloud. I have no other Junin to spare at the time, which is why I have sent them to you. Sarutobi and his friends look up to you and respect you a great deal, as I have seen back during the Chunin exams in Konoha. I am asking that you train these 3 for the upcoming Chunin exams, which will be held in Suna. Enclosed in the second scroll is their files and their specialties and weaknesses. I have already notified Tamari at the Councilate. Consider this their first S-ranked assignment. I know that you will not disappoint me, Lord Emperor. I am expecting great things from these 3. Gaara of the Sand, Godime Cage of Suna. Well, boss, Maru prodded. What does it say? Naruto smiled at the younger genin. You 3 are as of this moment, on your first official S-class mission. Really? Awesome, came the reply from the trio. Your mission is a 6-month assignment from the Cage himself, Naruto continued. He has left the 3 here in order to train for the upcoming Chunin exams. As the 3 genin cheered, Naruto flagged down a passing valet. These 3 are considered guests in my home. Show them the guest quarters and get them settled in. The valet bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. Naruto turned to the 3 genin. Follow her inside. She will get you settled in. Maru and his teammates nodded eagerly and followed the valet towards the imperial palace. The emperor turned on his heel and entered the hall. As he headed for his office, he undid the second scroll and began to read it. Maru's specialty is ninjutsu, just like old man Sachirobi. Moegi knows the basics of medical ninjutsu, and Udon shows promise in hand-to-hand combat, Naruto thought as he continued to read. They're a bunch of misfits, but they show promise. Kinda reminds me of myself when I was younger. This can be interesting. Rounding the corridor, he saw Sanshi chatting with Hayate Okajima, Kokura Yamada and Kota Chiba. Before they could say anything, Naruto had beaten them to the point. You 4, my office. Curious as to what their emperor would want, they followed him inside. 10 minutes later, Maru Sarutobi, Moegi and Udon stood before the emperor, the boy that they had long since admired since their days back in Konoha. And he was not alone. Standing alongside Naruto were 4 people that they recognized from their last visit. Naruto had explained the request from Gaara in regards to the 3 kids standing before them, and had requested that they assist in their training. Not one to back down from a challenge, Sanshi and the 3 council members agreed. Gaara's entrusted you 3 to my care, to train you for the Chunin exams, Naruto intoned, his face serious. But I cannot do this alone, which is why I enlisted the help of these 4 upstanding warriors. I fought with them during the Unification Wars, and I trust them with my life. Mondays, I will teach you taijutsu, as well as chakra control and endurance training. Tuesdays, Sanshi will train you 3 in basic weapons combat and tactics. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I got something special planned. Maru, you will learn ninjutsu from Okajima. At that, the Tengu bowed. Moegi, as you are studying to be a medic ninja, you will spend time with Yamada. Kota bowed as well. And Udon, you will receive intermediate and advanced taijutsu training from the Chiba clan, mostly from Takuma. The Chiba clan head followed suit. Sanshi sized the 3 Suna genin up. So, this is your little pet project. Train these 3 into battle-ready ninja. You got your work cut out for you, chief. Maru puffed at that insult. Hey, I'm gonna be a great ninja. Like the boss and my grandpa. Sanshi looked at Maru. And who are you? Maru Sarutobi. Sanshi recognized the name immediately. Sarutobi. Your grandfather was Hiruzen Sarutobi. You knew him. Knew him. I fought him when I was younger, Sanshi replied. The chief admired him a great deal. As did I. Good man, good ninja. Although it's a bit late, the chiefs told me about his passing. You do have my sympathies. They're a group of misfits, but they got heart and guts, Naruto added. That goes a long way. I see in them plenty of potential. Potential to even surpass me. They got spirit, too, Okajima added. I'll send in one of my best ninja to assist in the training. You have the full support of the Okajima clan in this, chief. Naruto turned to the three Suna genin. I will warn you in advance. These four are not to be taken lightly, as am I. We will push you to the extent of your abilities. We will be hard, but we will also be fair. I will not make the same mistakes as Hatake did with myself, the emo and the banshee. You will receive equal training. And I will be in contact with Tamari, who will be passing on your progress reports to Gaara. By the time the Chunin exams come around, you three will be the talk of the town. Do I make myself clear? Yes, boss. Maru, Moegi and Udon shouted in chorus. You three will have the weekend off, Naruto said as he dismissed the four council members. Come Monday, your training will begin. There will be risks, but the rewards will be great. Konohagakure no Sato, the following day. Upon their return to the village, Asuma Sarutobi, along with Shibi and Shino Aburame headed straight to the Hokage Tower to deliver their report. Asuma had been released from the hospital the previous week, and was assigned patrol duty so he could get back into the niche of things. Instead, he and the two Aburame stumbled upon Itachi and Kisame near the lightning border and witnessed a confrontation with the man in black over Utakata. Only the shinobi half of the Konoha council was present, as Tsunade had ordered the civilian half to leave, as she was getting tired of their rampant stupidity, especially from Asuna Haruno. The civilian council wanted to place Jiraiya inside the bingo book as an S-ranked missing ninja, but Tsunade had refused. When they did it regardless, placing the Toad Sage as an S-ranked criminal with a retrieve on-site order, the Fire Daimyo was furious. Tsunade had suspended the civilian side of the council for a month without pay, while the Fire Lord reduced Konoha's military aid by half and sent their B and A ranked assignments to Wind Country for the next year. Jiraiya was no traitor, as the Toad Sage was in contact with the Fire Daimyo himself, and was granted immunity after leaving Konoha. Suffice to say, Jiraiya was taken out of the bingo book almost immediately. Even Danzo was against the council's move, which was surprising to most people. After all, Jiraiya was more useful alive instead of dead. Tsunade and the shinobi half of the council listened to the report with great interest of the confrontation with the man in black in the Akatsuki. Also present was Sasuke Uchiha, recently promoted to Junin. It was through his hard work, not because of his name, that Tsunade finally relented and allowed him to take the Junin exams. But Sasuke knew that Tsunade despised him for his role, which led to Naruto being banished. Sasuke was also interested in the man in black. He has, after all, came out victorious against the best Konoha had to offer. Now, he fought his brother and his partner and had soundly defeated them in battle. So it's true, Tsunade said. The Akatsuki are gathering the Jinchuriki. She only hoped that Naruto was safe. Jiraiya was no help, since he has deprived the Leaf his spy network. That can prove to be a problem for the Akatsuki, Shikaku Nara pointed out. Yugito ni, the container for the two tails, has disappeared following Uzumaki's banishment. And just recently, Han and Roshi have also vanished. The Akatsuki did not intercept them. If anything, I'm willing to bet that the man in black has something to do with those incidents. Sasuke winced. Uzumaki. He still blamed himself for his attempted defection. Naruto was banished for simply doing his job in bringing him back. He kept his distance from Kakashi and Sakura. Kakashi had pretty much abandoned Naruto, while Sakura still called for his death behind Tsunade's back. In the months following Naruto's banishment, even he saw that things had went bad for the Leaf, despite what the civilian council had said. Konoha had lost every single trade agreement and alliance it has forged because of his former teammate and has become a virtual pariah in the shinobi community. Iruka Yumino was dead, having committed suicide in the months following Naruto's banishment. Like the others, he had forsaken Naruto in his time of need. It was Sasuke who had found his body, having lit his wrists with a kunai, unable to live with the guilt of betraying Naruto. Sasuke covered up the suicide in his official report, claiming that Iruka had simply lost the will to live. He was buried in the Konoha graveyard. Only Tsunade knew the truth. Iruka had left behind a suicide note. All it said was "I'm sorry. He deserved better. We do not deserve his forgiveness. We all abandoned him in his darkest hour." On Tsunade's orders, Sasuke incinerated the suicide note. Tsuki and Ayame's business were hit hard in the following months. When confronted by Asuna Haruno, they refused to recant and declare Naruto a demon. The civilian council, led by Haruno, had virtually boycotted their ramen shop. In retaliation, Tsuki and Ayane closed down and moved to Wave Country, where the people welcomed them with open arms. Sasuke had heard that Ichiraku's was doing a lot better than it did back when it was in Konoha. The man in black has proven to be a worthy adversary, Asuma continued. We also gained some new information regarding him. Such as, Shuza Akamaiki prodded. He has a bloodline, Shino said. He didn't say its name, but gave a detailed description as to what it can do. Captain Sarutobi stated in his report in regards to the confrontation with Hidan and Kazuku that Hidan's immortality was nullified with his seals. It's the most logical conclusion that the man is a top-notch seal master, of which he verified when he fought Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki. He said that not only his bloodline boosts the seal's effectiveness, Asuma continued, but casting genjutsu on him would not work, as his bloodline makes him immune, as Itachi failed to pull him into Tsukiyomi. It also nullifies the Sharingan's ability to copy jutsu. Lastly, his bloodline also allows him to cast senjutsu-level jutsu. No wonder why my Sharingan didn't work, Danzo thought, remembering the confrontation at the ruins of Chiraku's temple. But this boy is proving to be even more interesting every time I hear about him. I was careless the last time. He is a perfect candidate for being Konoha's ultimate weapon. Next time I see him, I will take him down. After defeating both Uchiha and his partner, he started to leave with his entourage, but he stopped and looked right at me, Asuma noted. His face? Did you see his face? Koharu demanded. Asuma shook his head. No, not his face. I saw his eyes. They were the color of pure gold. Then he turned and walked away. He had what he came for, so fighting us would have been moot. The bloodline could have something to do with his eyes, Shibi said. But that is just an estimated guess at best. Lady Hokage, this is very unnerving news, Hanmura said. We should place this man in the bingo book as AA-ranked criminal with orders to retrieve on sight. Whoever this man is, he has not killed any Konoha ninja, the Godime replied. And you know the law, Mitokado. Unless a Konoha ninja dies at his hands, then we cannot place him in the bingo book. I honestly think that the civilian council's stupidity is rubbing off on you and Koharu. Ignoring the blubbering advisors, Tsunade continued. My order still stands. Find him and bring him in. I don't care if you have to use diplomacy or brute force. At that, Sume Inuzuka smiled. After seeing the failed attempts of both generations of the Inoshika Cho trio, Team Guy and Danzu's root Anbu, the feral clan head was itching for a chance to fight the mystery man. It had been a while since the elite Junin had a good match, and she felt that the mystery man could give it to her. Konohagakure no Sato, following the conclusion of the Chunin exams. The civilian council had placed all their hopes on Sasuke, hoping that the Uchiha elite could defeat the man in black and bring him to Konoha, after the mystery man had given the leaf black eye after black eye after black eye. Their hopes were dashed when they saw the ninja that were sent to Suna return. Without the man in black. Despite his injuries, Saskia had a report to make. Ignoring the guards at the gate, Sasuke and Kakashi headed for the Hokage Tower. Inside the council chambers. What? This time, the outburst didn't come from Tsunade. It came from Asuna Haruno. Even the shinobi side of the council was very concerned at the change in events. Sasuke had just told them the identity of the mystery man. Several high-ranking Junin also sat in on this meeting, as they were curious as to who the mystery man was. I said he is the emperor of the Western Empire, the Uchiha confirmed. He told me before knocking me out. The cage had all but confirmed it. On the shinobi side, shock was the evident reaction, while disbelief reigned on the shinobi side. Even the normally arrogant Danzo was shocked. The mystery man was the infamous emperor that has been making waves back in the West. This definitely complicates things, Asuma said. This one agrees, Sum seconded. At least I feel a whole lot better about losing. Troublesome, Shikaku muttered. Very troublesome. We almost pissed off the Western Empire by attempting to kidnap their ruler. Inochi and Shuza, who were seated next to their teammate, also agreed. Danzo was thinking along the same lines. From what I managed to get out of Gaara, Sasuke continued, he is accompanied by his elite guard, 8 chosen warriors whose main objective is to protect the emperor from any and all threats. So what was the emperor doing in Suna, of all places? Asuna demanded. He seems to be pretty chummy with the Godime cage, Kakashi said. We noticed an imperial consulate in the city. Gaara's also mentioned that he had sent Sarutobi and his team to personally train under the emperor himself. Given their performance in the Chunin exams, the emperor has succeeded. I have to admit that those 3 cleaned house. Asuma smiled at that. Had Maru stayed in Konoha, he would have made a fine Chunin. It could be a trick, Asuna shot out. As much as I would like to believe Captain Hatake and Junin Uchiha, we need more proof. Those merchant houses that has surfaced, the Pakera merchant house, they came from the west. Tsunade knew what Asuna's intentions were. There's a traveling merchant from the Pakera house in the market. I will summon her to appear before the council. The merchant in question was a former special Junin level kunoichi named Meiki Asahina. Following the Unification War, she had left her unit at the age of 27 and had signed on to the Western Empire's Intelligence Division, which ultimately led her to the east, her assignment being Fire County. Her cover was that of a kunoichi turned traveling merchant working for the Pakera Merchant House's Fire Country branch, located within the imperial consulate inside the fire capital. Tsunade found it strange that the emperor had refused to allow a fire consulate inside his empire. She also had a paltry bounty of 25 million ryo placed on her head, given her role in killing a group of bandits who had tried to raid the Pakera merchant caravan while on the road to the fire capital. Twice a week, she and her entourage of Pakera merchants would travel to Konoha. She was also loyal to her emperor to the point that she nearly blew her cover when she ended up arriving on the anniversary of Naruto's banishment. Fortunately, her coworkers had managed to calm her down. So imagine her surprise while packing up the stand and preparing for the trip back to the fire capital. She was summoned to the Hokage Tower by 3 members of the Anbu to face the Konoha Council. Tsunade looked at the former kunoichi, easily identified by her crimson flak vest and her ninjutsu, which was strapped to her back. Meiki looked back at her with a bored, yet curious expression. The slug sage cleared her throat. First off, thank you for coming to this meeting. You are not in trouble of any kind. We just have some questions we would like to ask of you. Meiki shrugged her shoulders. Shoot. First off, what is your name? Tsunade asked. Meiki Asahina, former captain of the Imperial Defense Forces, 3rd Battalion, 7th Division, 1st Squad. Now, I'm a merchant with the Pakera Merchant House, Meiki replied. A merchant? Yet you are armed and wear the flak vest of a ninja, Kaharu pointed out. I wear this as a badge of honor. To remind myself that even though I am a merchant, I will always be a ninja, Meiki replied. The katana is for merely self-defense. The shinobi could respect that, Danzo included. And Anbu handed her the picture of the disguised Naruto. Can you identify this man? Tsunade asked. Of course, Maki replied. That's His Imperial Majesty, the Crimson Fury of the Empire. In other words, he is the Emperor of the West. Whispers and murmurs were heard throughout the council chambers. Does he have a name? Danzo asked. He does, but I am under orders not to say it. The Emperor has many enemies, and there are those in the East who wish to make a name for themselves by eliminating His Imperial Majesty and take his throne. His clan is virtually the richest out of all of the clans in the West. That was understandable to the gathered shinobi. That's not good enough, Asuna Haruno snapped. Tell us his name. Maki turned to the civilian council member. You don't like that? Tough shit. I answer to the Emperor, not you. How dare you? Asuna shouted, rising to her feet. You will tell us the name of the Emperor, or else you will pay a visit to Ibiki. Haruno, sit down, Tsunade ordered. Leave it to the hot-headed Haruno to antagonize their guest. But, Asuna sputtered. Shut up and sit down. The Godime bellowed. The sheer will alone made Asuna collapse into her seat. Once Asuna was properly humbled, Tsunade turned back to Maki. I apologize for Representative Haruno's behavior. Apology accepted, Lady Hokage, Maki replied. I take it you want to know more about the boss. The boss, Tsunade repeated. It's a nickname we have for the Emperor, Maki explained. It goes back during the days of the Unification War. To answer your question, yes, Tsunade replied. We would like to know more. He's tall, 6 feet even, reddish blonde hair, blue eyes. But when he uses his bloodline, they turn to gold. Likes to wear black, which earned him the nickname, the Man in Black. I fought alongside him in the Unification War, back when he was a teenager. You mean, Shikaku began. Maki nodded. He unified the lands and became emperor when he was 15 years old. That was 3 years ago. Quite an amazing feat for a kid. Asuna snorted at that, but kept silent. Danzo, on the other hand, was pretty impressed. Yosh, the emperor is truly a youthful opponent. Rock Lee shouted. To have unified the West in such a short time. Indeed, my most youthful student. Guy said. Guy sensei. Lee. Guy sensei. Lee. Guy sensei. Lee. Bonk. Bonk. Tenten brought the dreaded jutsu to a halt by knocking both men out. The shinobi side breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you, Tenten, Tsunade said, thus sparing the council the dreaded flames of youth, jutsu. Continue, Captain Asahina. He has that charisma, that strength. He can make you believe in him, Maki continued. He fights alongside his soldiers. Even when we were on campaign, he would do his share of the work around the camp, and still have time to conduct a war. He was trained in both the shinobi arts and the way of the samurai. I would die in a second for him. We all would. Loyalty, Inochi Yamanaka said. A powerful weapon for any leader to have. Maki nodded. Yes. He is loyal to his soldiers and to the people, and vice versa. What can you tell us about his armed forces? Danzo asked, getting a nasty glare from Tsunade. Sorry. I can't divulge that information. Will that be all, Lady Hokage? Tsunade nodded. Yes. You may go. Maki bowed and departed from the chambers. Once she was gone, another round of talks began. I say she is lying, Asuna said. We should take her to Ibiki and see if he can loosen that tongue of hers. Danzo was thinking along the same lines. Only difference was that he was considering kidnapping Maki and converting her to his route. But he quickly dismissed that idea. If she was tough enough to have a bounty on her head, then sending Root Anbu after her would be a bad idea. She was not lying, Inochi rebuked. I checked her mental patterns while we talked. She was very truthful and open. And from the look of things, she can still fight, even though she is no longer a ninja. We don't know what the ninja from the Western Empire are capable of. If the Emperor himself is a skilled fighter, what does that say about his forces? Tsunade sighed. Inochi did have a point. As of this moment, the Emperor is to be left alone. I will not have Konoha wiped out over a misunderstanding. The council nodded. The Godime turned to the injured Uchiha. Uchiha, get your injuries taken care of. This meeting is adjourned. Hyuga compound. The following day, Hiashi and Hanabi Hyuga faced the Council of Elders. Hanabi was still bruised from her match with Maru Sarutobi, while Hiashi sported a fresh bruise from trying to attack the Emperor while in Suna, as well as an angry red handprint from where Kurenai had slapped him. Both the clan head and his designated heir did not look very happy. The reason being was not that Hanabi had made the grade to Chunin, as she was defeated by Maru Sarutobi. The reason was that earlier that day, a courier ninja had dropped off Hinata's Hitai-8 and a scroll addressed to Hiashi and Hanabi. The scroll had all but verified it. Hinata had defected from the clan and the village. Hinata had disappeared the night before the Emperor had fought Sasuke Uchiha in the finals. Hiashi had the main and branch clan members comb Suna looking for her, but to no avail. Until that morning, when he received Hinata's Hitai-8 and the scroll. The scroll was simple and to the point, and it was from the Emperor of the West. In the end, Hiashi and Hanabi were reprimanded. Kurenai was cleared of any wrongdoing, but it was a bittersweet victory. Tsunade had to follow the rules of the Konoha Charter and Hinata was placed in the bingo book as AA-ranked missing ninja with orders to retrieve on site. Now, the clan head and his heir was in a meeting with the Hyuga Council. This is most disturbing news, Hiashi, one of the council members said. Not only did Hinata had defected from the clan and from Konoha, but the Emperor was able to remove the caged bird seal. Impossible. A female Hyuga main branch member said. That seal was designed to be permanent. How can the Emperor remove it? Either way, no one from the branch clan must not know about this, the first member said. If they find out that the caged bird seal can be removed, then we are looking at a civil war. I agree, Hanabi said. Hinata is gone, and the Byakugan is in the hands of the Empire. That is unfortunate. But the Emperor cannot protect Hinata all the time. She is, as my father has told me, and it has already been proven, weak. All we have to do is bide our time. Hinata will return to the east. And when she does, we will strike. Furthermore, if it pleases my father and the Honorable Hyuga Council, I propose an incentive to get Hinata back. Such as? A third council member asked. A bounty contract on Hinata, Hanabi replied. 20 million ryo to anyone who brings Hinata back alive to face justice. A reasonable incentive, Hiashi said. After talking it over, the three council members turned to Hiashi and Hanabi. Your proposal is acceptable. Make it so. Several hours later, Shikamaru Nara was currently enjoying his favorite pastime, cloud watching. Or at least he was when the form of Sasuke Uchiha blocked out the clouds and the sun. So is it true then? Shikamaru asked, not moving from his perch. The man in black is the Emperor. It is, the Uchiha replied. This complicates things. What do you want with me? A word, with you and your father, Sasuke said before walking off in the direction of the Nara home. The lazy Chunin groaned. Damn. This is very troublesome. Nara Ranch, later on. Shikaku Nara played host to Sasuke Uchiha. The clan head, Deer Herder and his heir sat at a table with the Uchiha. Yoshino had served the three men drinks, stopping only to give her husband and the last Uchiha a nasty look each before retreating into the kitchen. Apparently, even the hot-headed wife of Shikaku disliked playing hostess to even Sasuke Uchiha. To what we owe the honor of your visit, Sasuke Uchiha? Shikaku asked as he took a sip of his tea. The Emperor of the West, Sasuke replied. We all fought against him. We all lost. You want to trade notes, Shikaku surmised. Not much to tell about him, only that for a kid, he's pretty damn tough. I always thought that he would be older. But still, to unify the West in only 2 years, very impressive. Fighting-wise, we got off light. Can't say the same for Hitaki, the Inuzuka and the Hyuga. He's a hard person to analyze, his fighting style ranging from direct and brutal to smooth and fluid. I saw that as well, Sasuke said. His taijutsu and ninjutsu are top-notch. Add the fact that his bloodline pretty much blocks the Sharingan's ability to copy jutsu, he is indeed a formidable fighter. Given his skills and abilities, Shikamaru began, he could easily make SS ranking in the bingo book. Danzu's taken an interest in him. Pretty obvious, Sasuke said. I think he's given up on me joining his side. But you got to admit that it's strange. The Emperor knew exactly how to fight each and every one of us. He knew our strengths and our weaknesses and exploited them to his advantage. He broke your Kujimane before Ino could possess him with her mind jutsu, and repeated the feat with your father. He knew how to counter and exploit the weakness of the Hyuga's Jiyuken. Rock Lee respects him, despite losing to him, as does Guy. Tenten is pretty much obsessed with that sword of his. But that beatdown he gave to the Inuzuka and Captain Hatake. Shikaku shuddered. Very troublesome. Sasuke nodded. Indeed. And look what happened to Hatake. And he and his elite guards took apart Danzo and his route, as well as 2 separate squads of Anbu Black Ops. Captain Mitarashi wants a rematch against him. There's a lot more to this guy than he appears. You think that, wouldn't you? Shikaku responded. Hatake may have been an idiot for a sensei, but he did teach one valuable lesson. Look underneath, the Uchiha replied. Gaara seems to know him. Why else would he attend the Suna exams? You're thinking that he could be allied with Suna? Shikamaru asked. Sasuke shrugged his shoulders. Could be. I noticed an imperial consulate in the city. And Gaara was more than willing to allow the Emperor and myself to fight in the Suna arena once the tournament was completed. So yeah, an alliance with Suna is pretty feasible. Hard to believe that he unified the West while most of us made Chunin, Shikamaru drawled. And he survived a confrontation with Itachi and his shark-faced buddy, a feat in itself. And the fact that he has intercepted most of the Jinchuriki from the Akatsuki. Sasuke trailed off. Do you think that he can be among them? Shikaku and Shikamaru stiffened slightly. They knew that Sasuke was talking about Naruto. While the remaining members of Cell 7 were indifferent in regards to his banishment, Sasuke showed general remorse in seeing his former teammate banished. Shikamaru had even overheard him at his cousin Obito's grave one day, saying that Naruto may had been a knucklehead and a dead last, but he was loyal and that the council should not have banished him. But ever since Sasuke had released the details of the planned Uchiha revolt, as well as of the circumstances of the Nine Tails attack on Konoha, he has gained even more of the shinobi population's mistrust. The civilian council continued to kiss his SS. Sasuke downed the rest of the tea and placed the cup back on the tray. Either way, I hope he is still alive and happy, regardless of his banishment. Thank you for your time, Lord Nara. Shikamaru. I think I can find my way out. Once Sasuke was gone, Shikaku looked pensive for the first time in a while. So what do you think? He asked Shikamaru. Uchiha has a point, Shikamaru said. Deception's always been part of our way of life. The Emperor is a wild card at best. A highly skilled wild card, but a wild card nonetheless. Despite everything that has happened, he did save Asuma Sensei from Hidan. Shikaku wasn't convinced. What do you really think, son? Now that Sasuke was gone, Shikamaru could speak freely. That the Emperor could have spies and informants in the east. Maybe inside the Fire Capital, or even Konoha. Worst case scenario is that the Emperor is connected to Konoha in some way, and knows how each of us fight, and counter our signature techniques. And the way he had beaten down Neji and Lord Hyuga, not to mention how he brutally beaten Captain Hatake, the Inuzuka matriarch and Kiba, shows that those 5 had slighted him in some way. Everyone else just got lucky. And the Emperor has been intercepting the Jinchuriki. Sasuke did make a valid point. Uzumaki could be among them. You still think that he is the Nine Tails reborn? Shikamaru thought about it for a moment. When he was banished, yes. But now that I think about it, if he was the Kyuubi, then he would have long since razed this place to the ground. I think he really is the jailer. But more importantly, he will probably never forgive us for favoring Uchiha over him. The elder Nara nodded. He then made a decision. Shikamaru, what I am about to tell you must not be uttered outside these walls. No one, not even Asuma, or Choji, or Ino or the Hokage herself must not know. Promise me. Shikamaru nodded. Is this a troublesome secret? Troublesome does not even begin to describe it, Shikaku replied. It concerns the circumstances of Uzumaki's banishment. Swear it to me, on your honor as a member of the Nara clan. Shikamaru sighed. I swear on the honor of the Nara clan. I will tell no one. And Shikaku told him. Once he was finished, he stood up. Feel free to throw up. I know I did. Once Shikaku was out of the room, that was what Shikamaru had did. He made a beeline to the bathroom and emptied the contents of his stomach. His dad was right. Troublesome did not even begin to describe what has happened to Uzumaki. My God, what have we done? Was the last thought that Shikamaru had before he puked again. Snafu's notes. This completes Naruto's side stories. Next we'll chronicle Hinata's side as she trains under Kiyomi, getting closer to Naruto, and will ultimately lead to the Akatsuki invasion of Suna. Imperial Palace. Nighttime, 3 weeks after the Suna Chunin exams. Ow. Ow. Hold still, Hinata. I'm almost done. Ow. Inside the master bedroom of the Imperial Palace, Naruto was tending to Hinata's injuries. Katami had created a wooden training dummy, similar to the wooden Wing Chun training dummy with stand, and had Hinata train on it for most of the day. The end result was skinned knuckles, several cuts and bruises, and a couple of splinters. Naruto was busy tending to Hinata's wounded hands. A first aid kit was on the table, and it was open. Naruto was plucking the remaining splinters out of Hinata's right hand with a pair of tweezers. Her other hand was already treated and bandaged. Fortunately, it was Friday night, meaning that the Emperor and Hinata had the weekend off. If it's any consolation, I had my share of injuries when I was training under Katami as well, Naruto said. Combine that with Sanshi, Zabuza and her, Katami was the toughest. Between you and me, her training methods could give Guy a run for her money. She was that bad. Ow. Hinata winced. You're getting off light in becoming a sage, Naruto said as he cleaned the injuries and was currently bandaging them. I was busy learning how to fight so I can unify the lands. She's training you for 6 months. I had to train for 9. Sanshi was strict in ways that would make old man Sarutobi blush, Zabuza was a certified psycho, Yugito is a sadist, and Katami's an insane dominatrix. Hinata Company. Ed an eyebrow. And those 4 helped you win the war. I wouldn't be emperor without those 4 and their insane training methods. True. Okay. All done, Naruto said as he finished tending to Hinata's injuries. You should be fine come Monday. The Emperor of the West packed up the first aid kit and rose from the seat. Unknown to him, Hinata followed him. Naruto walked over to the nightstand and stowed the kit away. When he turned around, he was caught completely unaware by Hinata standing behind him. They had kissed before, but this time around, it was Hinata, not Naruto, who had initiated it. This was another thing that Naruto had liked. Hinata was becoming more assertive and less meek. She was becoming his equal, but out of respect, she was his second in command. Oh, were the Hyuga and Konoha are going to be in for a shock when Hinata resurfaces as not as the Fox Sage, but as the Empress Consort of the Emperor himself. Empress Consort Hinata Namikaze, Naruto thought as he carried her to the bed. I like that. The couple would make out for most of the night. They both agreed that they would take their relationship further when they were both ready. Right now, this was all they needed for the moment. Hyuga Complex, Konohagakure no Sato. Hiyashi Hyuga knew that something was wrong when he began to read the mission report. Hanabi and Neji sat in front of the Hyuga Patriarch as his expression grew from neutral to angry. The 10 main branch ninja were the pick of the litter. They should have no problem in retrieving Hinata from the Empire. What he didn't expect was that his daughter, the same one who everyone in the clan had written off as weak, not only defeated all 10 Hyuga ninja, but had also branded Heizu with the caged bird seal. Hiyashi slammed the mission scroll onto the table. Hanabi didn't even bother to read it, as she and Neji was already briefed on the chain of events which led up to this point. Neji, on the other hand, hid his emotions well. Despite disliking Hinata, he hated Heizu even more. In his mind, Heizu got what he deserved. What made Hiashi so angry was that Heizu had committed suicide rather than to go through life with that accursed seal. It was another black eye to the illustrious Hyuga clan. It appears that Hinata has learned some new tricks while she was away, Hanabi noted. Then again, I'm not surprised. You spread your legs to the most powerful man in the West and he will teach you how to defend yourself. Hotaru will be most displeased when he finds out that his son has committed suicide, Hiashi said. Turning to his remaining daughter and nephew, he gave them their orders. Hanabi, Neji, find Hinata, and bring her back. I don't care how it's to be done. If we do that, then we risk the wrath of the Emperor, Neji pointed out. This is a clan matter, Hiashi snapped. He can always find another whore to keep him warm at night. If word gets out that Hinata has been freed from her seal, but also drove a main branch member to suicide, then we will lose our standing in Konoha. See to your orders. Hanabi and Neji nodded and left the room. Wave Town, Wave Country. Watching from the sidelines, Naruto Namikaze had a slightly worried expression on his face. Fortunately, his hat had concealed the worry he had on his face as Hinata faced down Hiashi. Naruto knew that this was a long time coming. Even he knew about the emotional abuse Hiashi had put Hinata through, which had ultimately led to this final encounter between father and daughter. He wasn't worried for Hinata. He was worried about the state Hinata was going to leave Hiashi. But that was just a fleeting moment, as he looked on in anticipation of the inevitable match between the former heiress and her father. He had given some advice to Hinata before they made their appearance. Advice that was brief and straight to the point. Advice that even Hinata liked very much. Crush him. The people of Wave Town had given the two combatants a wide berth, as the battle was going to take place inside the town square, Naruto promising that he would personally pay for the damages that would soon follow from this battle. Hiashi was escorted by Hanabi Hyuga and 3 members of the main branch, while the Emperor and his elite guards backed Hinata. The Hyuga patriarch looked regal, yet intimating in his traditional robes, while Hinata was clad in her usual ninja jumpsuit. Having discarded her hoodie when she first arrived in the West, she had on something more practical, a black Junin-style flak vest, similar to what Naruto would sometimes wear. Her hair was tied into a single braid. Simply put, Hinata was ready to kick some major SS. So you finally come, Hinata drawled. Only when your so-called honor is compromised, do you actually take action instead of sending your underlings to do your dirty work. This has gone on long enough, Hinata, Hiashi snapped. You have tarnished the family name for the last time. Be warned, if you continue down this road, then you will not live to see the end of this day. But if you forsake the Emperor and return to the clan willingly, then I will spare your life. I think I will take the other option and beat you down, Hinata replied. You have called me weak because I was not the perfect little heiress that you wanted. Mother would be ashamed as to what you have become. Now Hiashi was incensed. Don't you dare dishonor her memory. You, who have betrayed your clan. Just to be a whore to that upstart of an emperor. We'll see if you can still warm his bed when I am through with you. The elite guards, Conan especially, were ready to take the arrogant Hyuga apart for that insult to the emperor's fiancé. But Naruto ordered them to keep their cool. This is Hinata's fight, he whispered. She must face her own demons and conquer them. Meanwhile, Hinata looked unfazed. I only wanted your recognition. You forsook your own daughter for your own political standing. When you branded me with the caged bird seal, that was the last straw. I have beaten Neji and Hanabi. She pointed to her father. You are the last link to my past, Hiashi Hyuga. It ends here. Q Resident Evil, Biohazard 5's, sad but true, for the duration of the fight. Hiashi activated his Byakugan and went into his Jiyuken stance, while Hinata's eyes changed from lavender to violet as she activated her enhanced Byakugan, sans the bulging veins. She shifted into her Kinshiki stance, think Lily's stance, and waited for Hiashi to make the first move. Hiashi pulled out several kunai and flung them at Hinata, who calmly weaved and spun through the deadly bladed instruments, while at the same time, closing the distance between his firstborn. Chakra seeping into his hands, Hiashi let loose with several rapid Jiyuken strikes aimed at Hinata's chest. However, Hinata wasn't going to let him nail her with those lethal strikes. She has proven to Hanabi and Neji that the Kinshiki was a lethal style when it needs be. Now, it was time for Hiashi to feel its wrath. Hinata calmly dodged the first several Jiyuken strikes before parrying the rest with her forearms. She then scored the first hit, a open palm strike to his jaw, having breached through his defenses. As Hiashi staggered backwards, Hinata went back into her stance. While Hiashi was busy sitting on his SS for the past couple of years, Hinata had been training long and hard, with Katami and Naruto helping her reach her full potential. The former heiress then moved in, kicking low, then high, forcing Hiashi to block both blows, wincing from the impact. Then she closed in the distance before Hiashi could recover. A straight punch to the face, followed by a blow to the chest. She moved around Hiashi's Jiyuken strikes and grabbed a handful of his hair, violently yanking his head back and driving her elbow into his jaw, followed by a chop to the throat. She completed the combo with a Jiyuken strike to his left arm. "You're outmatched, Hiashi," Hinata drawled as she went back into her stance. "Give up and I won't leave you a cripple." Hiashi took the moment to reopen his tenketsu. "You dare make demands of me? You are still weak. Yet, you were unable to get a hit off of me," Hinata pointed out. "Don't feel bad. Neji and Hanabi were the same." Another aspect of becoming the Fox Sage was that Katami had drilled Hinata in the art of psychological warfare. Hinata knew how to press Hiashi's buttons, causing him to make several mistakes. But there was one mistake that even Hiashi could have avoided: never underestimate your opponent, especially your own flesh and blood. Hinata stood her ground as Hiashi charged. One of Naruto's training methods was weight training, something he had picked up from Rock Lee. He had done the same, and used the same methods to make Hinata faster. Combined that with occasional sparring with the Chiba clan head and Takuma, Hinata's skill level was up to par with her soon-to-be husband. A fact that Hiashi will soon find out the hard way. Kinshiki was basically the gentle fist in its purest form, Hinata having stripped the flaws and weaknesses out of the style. What made Kinshiki even more dangerous was that it did not use the Bikogen as a crutch. The same flaws and weaknesses that Hiashi was showing in the gentle fist as he and Hinata had gotten in close, blocking and parrying the other's strikes and blows. This time around, Hiashi had caught Hinata with several strikes of his own, disabling her right arm. Hinata knocked him back with a kick to the jaw. Hiashi smirked when he saw that Hinata's arm was useless. Then his eyes widened when he saw the tenketsu open itself up again, showing that Hinata could once again use her arm. Hinata flexed her hand as the feeling rushed back into her hand. Surprised, Hinata taunted, "You have nothing else to teach me, old man. I have far surpassed you. Just give up." As the match continued, Naruto noticed two more people that had arrived to watch the match. Both were Konoha Junin. The first was male, with a beard, but no mustache, complete with an unlit cigarette, the female with undisciplined long hair and red eyes. Asuma and Kurenai Sarutobi. Naruto remembered that Kurenai was Hinata's sensei, and that she was married to Asuma shortly after Maru had made genin. Asuma was watching him, while Kurenai was watching her former student with what appears to be pride on her face. Nudging Sana on his left and Yahiko on his right, he said, "Watch those two. Just in case they try anything." The two guards nodded as the fight continued. Kurenai cared deeply for her team. So when Hinata had defected from Konoha, she was no fool. She knew the reasons why. The Emperor has given her an opportunity to become strong without her clan holding her back. She always told Hinata, Kiba and Shino to do what was right, and this fell under that category, clan be damned. The Genjutsu mistress watched with a sense of pride as Hinata not only stood up to her father, but was also winning. She wasn't using the Jiyuken style either. Well, it looked like the family style of the Hyuga, only that it was more purified. Kurenai nudged Asuma. Looks like the rumors were true about him being here, she said, flicking her head towards the emperor, dressed in all black, complete with the cage-style hat, flanked by his elite guards. Asuma nodded. Still can't believe he was just a kid when he united the West. Looks like he was smitten with your student, probably the main reason why he took her. Oh, if they only knew. Looks like your former student is holding her own against Hiashi, Asuma noted. Kurenai nodded. It made her sad to see that her former student was branded a missing ninja, but from what she had heard of the enigmatic Emperor of the West, she knew that he would protect her from all threats. Hinata ducked, then leaned backwards to avoid Hiashi's attacks. Hiashi attempted a palm heel strike, only to have Hinata counter by calmly flipping him to the ground. Hinata raised one leg up in a vertical split before bringing the heel down on Hiashi, who rolled out of the way. Hiashi had been training hard for this day, this Hinata had realized. After Naruto had defeated both Neji and himself, Hiashi had gotten back into training. But Hinata too had been training, refining the Kin Shiki into a formidable, yet deadly style. Hiashi got a quick uppercut to his jaw, which stunned him long enough for Hinata to perform the heavenly spin, knocking Hiashi into the air. Hinata quickly summoned a shadow clone, which sent the Hyuga clan head crashing back into the ground following a hard kick to his torso. As Hiashi bounced from the impact of landing hard on the pavement, the shadow clone vanished. Hiashi got up, albeit a bit shakily as Hinata calmly stood there in her stance, determination in her eyes. The Emperor was calmly watching from the sidelines, pleased at how the battle was playing out. Kurenai and Asuma could make out that he was smiling, as Hinata had taken a page out of his playbook. Hinata had interlaced her hand with Hiashi's, and had twisted it to the point where the pain forced Hiashi down on one knee. That left Hiashi open, allowing Hinata to strike him in the face repeatedly with a closed fist, the same way that Naruto had done to both Kakashi and Kiba, before flipping him to the ground. Hinata calmly advanced on her father, whose eye was swollen shut from the barrage of punches, meaning that because of that, he could not use his Byakugan in that eye. Hiashi coughed up blood, as he got back to his feet. Hinata parried his Jiyuken strike and smashed her palms against his ears, causing them to ring. His left arm was dislocated, the elbow broken following another attempt to attack. A punch to the stomach made the Hyuga clan head vomit his breakfast. As Hinata continued to ruthlessly dismantle the clan head, Asuma and Kurenai continued to watch from the sidelines. This is wrong, Asuma said. Why won't she just knock him out and get it over with? Because Hiashi had made Hinata's life a living hell, Kurenai replied. So Hinata is due for some payback. Not that I blame her. Hiashi is a prick, and the main branch members need to get knocked down a peg or three. So true, love, Asuma conceded. As Hiashi staggered to his feet, Hinata decided to end this battle once and for all. And she knew just how to do it. Now only it will serve as a message to the Hyuga, but it will leave quite an impression on her ex-father. Ducking under her father's attack, she nailed him with a palm heel strike. Unlike the Jiyuken's version, Hinata struck Hiashi 3 times. The first was with her right palm, the second was with her left, and a rising open palm strike that knocked him back. Hinata was not finished. One punch to the face, followed by a hard kick to the ribs, cracking the bone, which was then followed by a kick to the shins and a chop to the throat that stunned the Hyuga clan head, allowing Hinata to nail the clan head with a power jump kick, flipping off Hiashi's body and landing gracefully, while Hiashi landed on a heap. Hiashi quickly got back up, and fell to one knee soon after, coughing up more blood. You, Hiashi gasped. You can't be this strong. You're a weakling. It's over, Hiashi. I've won, Hinata countered. Your Jiyuken was no match for my Kin Shiki. Hiashi's eyes went wide at that declaration. You You learned the forbidden style. How? There are no scrolls for it. They were destroyed. Not really, Hinata replied. The gentle fist was flawed. I merely perfected it. It doesn't matter, Hiashi spat out. You're still a weakling. You are nothing. Hinata smiled evilly as she activated her Byakugan. And you're within my range. Her hands coated with chakra, she savored the look of disbelief on Hiashi's face as she uttered the following: 8 trigrams, 128 palms. Before Hiashi could react, Hinata unleashed hell. Summoning another clone, they both attacked at the same time. Watching from the sidelines, Asuma and Kurenai had seen the 128 palms in action, but Hinata had taken it to a whole new level with the use of a shadow clone. Hinata and the clone had struck Hiashi 64 times each. And boy, did it look painful. 1 becomes 2. Hinata. 2 becomes 4. Hinata's clone. 8. Hinata. 16. Hinata's clone. 32. Hinata. 64. Hinata's clone. 128 palms. Both Hinata's chorused as they struck the final blow together. Crunch. The last blow was aimed at Hiashi's leg. The Hyuga clan head screamed as he felt his leg break. Collapsing to the ground, he was immediately surrounded by Hanabi and the other Hyuga ninja. Hiashi coughed up blood as he tried to keep consciousness, his eyes showing nothing but hatred at his former daughter. How do you like your daughter now that she has no leash? Hinata taunted as she dismissed her clone. Any Hyuga that comes after me, I will do worse to them than what I did to you. I wash my hands clean of you, Hiashi Hyuga. You are no father of mine. You. That was all Hiashi managed to say before he passed out from his injuries. Father. Hanabi whispered softly. Then she turned to Hinata, her own Byakugan active, as were the other main branch ninja present. Get her. Before the main branch ninja could move in, Naruto intervened. The Hyuga ninja backed up as they saw Naruto at Hinata's side, katana drawn. He was backed up by his elite guards, who were ready for action. The Emperor drew a line in the street with his blade before turning his eyes on Hanabi. Hinata is under my protection, as if she needs it, from what I have seen, Naruto deadpanned. Take your father and go. You can have that. Hanabi was cut off when Naruto was at her side, the katana at her throat. Finish that sentence, and you will be a head shorter, Naruto threatened, the blade digging in just deep enough to draw a trickle of blood. Hanabi knew that she was outnumbered. Given the Emperor's track record against Konoha ninja, Hanabi was not interested in becoming another number to his tally. Wisely, she backed down, while staring daggers at Hinata. This isn't over, Hinata, Hanabi seethed. Oh, but it is, Hinata replied as Naruto sheathed his katana. She took to his side. Take him and go. Wisely, the Hyuga envoy made their retreat. Naruto and Hinata returned to the Inn of the Waves via Shunshin. Meanwhile, Asuma and Kurenai both had shocked looks on their faces. Honey, did we just see what I think we just saw? Asuma asked, flabbergasted. Did Hinata just cripple Hiashi? The red-eyed Genjutsu mistress slowly nodded. It looks that way. Despite Hinata being a missing ninja, she could not have been more proud of her former student. Konoha. The following day, the news spread like wildfire throughout the village. Hinata Hyuga, the former heiress of the Hyuga clan, and AA-ranked missing ninja, had not only beaten Hanabi and Neji Hyuga, but had also crippled the Hyuga clan head himself, Hiashi Hyuga. Ino had found out when both Asuma and his wife had returned from Wave. Upon overhearing Hanabi and one of the Hyuga branch members who was working as a medic in the hospital, that had all but confirmed it. Hiashi Hyuga had been beaten by his wayward daughter. Even more worse, Hiashi would never become an active ninja again, as there were too much damage in his leg when Hinata had shattered it. He would walk, but with a cane. His arm would heal, thankfully. What surprised everyone was that it was Hinata that had done it. The same Hinata Hyuga that was now a Class S criminal with a kill-on-sight order on her head, had crippled the arrogant and pompous clan head. The main branch members were in a complete uproar and called for a blood feud with both the Emperor of the West and the Emperor's whore. The cadet branch, on the other hand, were silently overjoyed at the fact that the arrogant Hiashi had been knocked down several pegs, first by the Emperor himself, then by Hinata. Even Tenten had seen Neji smile briefly when he was told the news about Hiyashi's utter defeat. Several main branch members even went as far as attacking Meiki Asahina and her fellow Pakara merchants while she was at her merchant stand, solely because of her loyalty to her emperor. After Meiki had sliced down 3 main branch members with her katana and left them to bleed out in the streets, did the Hyuga backed off. Meiki would have been charged with murder, had it not been for Kurenai Sarutobi, Shikaku Nara, Inochi Yamanaka and Shuza Akamaiki, who were present during the fight. Thanks to their testimony, Meiki wasn't charged with the 3 killings, as they were self-defense. Hanabi simply responded by ordering an increase on Hinata's bounty, the price doubling from 20 to 40 million ryo, with the orders, dead or alive. Hyuga Compound. 3 weeks later. The compound was on edge. What will become known as the second Hyuga incident had just transpired in Konoha. A squad of S-class missing ninja had infiltrated the Hyuga compound in the dead of night. Their target? The heir apparent of the Hyuga, Hanabi Hyuga. However, a branch clan member had sounded the alarm. The squad of S-class missing nin were all routed and eliminated. They had no Hitai Atesh which identified them which village they came from, but one of them had a vital item which explained why they were there in the first place. A bounty contract. The bounty in question was on Hanabi's head. The bounty was worth 120 million ryo, 3 times the bounty that was on Hinata's head. The next day, a courier ninja had arrived with a scroll for Hiashi. The scroll contained a note from the emperor himself, as well as a copy of Hanabi's bounty contract. By now, all of the ninja villages in the east will have copies of this bounty contract. Call off Hinata's bounty and I will do the same with Hanabi. Speak with Captain Asahina of the Pakara merchant house. Otherwise, I would watch the ninja in your village very carefully, Hyuga. Oh, and if you break your word, I will destroy the Hyuga main branch clan. Konoha, office of the Hokage. Tsunade wasn't surprised when she saw Hiashi enter her office, leaning on a walking cane. She had heard about the attack inside his compound, as well as the bounty contract on Hanabi's head. Hiashi slammed the documents on her desk. My family was attacked last night. They tried to kidnap my daughter. I demand justice. The slug sage leaned back in her seat. Funny. I seem to recall having this same conversation with you when you decided to brand Hinata with the caged bird seal. You said that since it was a clan matter, that I have no influence in Hyuga business. This business you have with the emperor taking Hinata is a clan matter, as is this bounty. I have no influence in this mess, which is of your own making. If I were you, I would seek peace with the emperor. Hiashi growled. He knew that Tsunade was right. He enjoyed rubbing it in her face when she tried to stop Hinata from being branded with the caged bird seal, and now, she did it to him. Now, all of Konoha had found out about the bounty on Hanabi's head. Remembering what the Pakara merchant had said about the emperor being the most wealthiest of the clans in the west, he had a sinking realization that the bounty on Hanabi's head was just a hint of what he could muster. More money than the noble clans of Konoha combined. He excused himself and headed for the Konoha market. Summer Palace, South Ichiyama. Nighttime has fallen over the largest city in the southern region. Naruto Namikaze sat on the edge of the bed, absently running his thumb over his wedding band. They had picked up their wedding rings while visiting Yukie in Spring Country. Hinata had chosen a wedding ring with a row of 6 diamonds embedded in the wedding band. Outside, the celebrations had died down, as it was almost midnight. A lot has happened in the past 6 months which had led to this night. He had led men through battle and built an empire from the ground up. But this night had pretty much petrified him. In the back of his mind, he almost wished that he was back in a war. Get a hold of yourself, Namikaze, Naruto steeled himself. You've seen Hinata naked before. She's seen you naked before. I'm not scared of intimacy. It's only your wedding night. Ah, crap. I'm petrified. Ahem. Naruto's mental rant was cut off when Hinata made her presence known. Naruto looked up, and his jaw had literally dropped to the ground. There was his wife, standing in the doorway, wearing a white slinky negligee that did little to conceal her voluptuous frame. And from Naruto's reaction, Hinata knew that she had struck gold. Yuji, Hinata grinned. Seeing her husband, the indomitable emperor of the West, a quivering wreck was priceless. Then again, so was she, and she was the one half naked. She just did a much better job of hiding her emotions. Damn it. Get a hold of yourself, soldier. Fight. Naruto's mind screamed. Naruto finally shook himself out of his stupor and rose from the bed, just as Hinata walked over to him, that same grin still plastered on her face. I see you like my little outfit, Hinata purred, thankful that Konan had decided to tag along when she decided to go shopping. It was the brunette's idea to pick up the negligee. Her hands began to unbutton Naruto's shirt. Don't worry. I'm nervous too, she whispered. That makes me feel a lot better, Naruto replied. One hand scratched the back of his head nervously. This is my first time, Hinata. Mine too, Hinata replied softly. Nothing else was said as the emperor and the empress consort showed their love for each other that left little to the imagination. At the same time, in hot water country, a super pervert of a toad sage was in the middle of a pleasant diversion, peeping in on the women bathing in a hot spring. He had heard reports of the Akatsuki in the area, and decided to investigate. When he found nothing, he decided on the aforementioned detour. As the girls splashed each other, Jiraiya watched as he let out a perverted little giggle as he scribbled down ideas for his next novel. Then his head snapped westward as he felt something familiar. What's this? My super perv senses are tingling, he thought. Someone is getting some hot nookie. If he only knew that said person in question was his estranged godson. Sadly, that one distraction had cost him, as one of the bathing women had caught sight of the old man. Jiraiya found himself buried under a pile of wooden buckets. Later, at the summer palace, clothes were strewn across the room, mostly Naruto's, while Hinata's lingerie laid in a heap at the foot of the bed. The emperor and empress consort were in bed together, a single bedsheet covering their bodies for some sort of modesty. The emperor was on his back, while his wife was snuggled up against his body. One arm was wrapped protectively around her waist, holding her close. Naruto looked at the angry red mark on her right shoulder. A bite mark. He knew that Hinata was gently rubbing her fingers over the same mark, only it was on his left shoulder. Let me guess. Katami? He asked. Hinata nodded. Yeah, she said to do this, to mark your mate as you reach climax. I never expected you to do this to me as well. Any reason why she wanted us to do this? He asked. To show the world that you are mine, and I am yours, Hinata replied. So, no regrets. None. None, she replied, smiling brilliantly. I'm glad to be here with you, Naruto. I'm glad you're here with me, Hinata, he replied, kissing her on the forehead. After a moment, the kissing and petting increased until Hinata was on top of Naruto. Another round, she breathed. Naruto grinned. This is going to be a very interesting 3 weeks. Snafu's notes. Sad but true, is Evil Jill's boss theme, in case you're wondering. I was reading over the Hinata Hiyashi fight scene while my cousin was playing Resident Evil 5. So I kinda threw that in there for dramatic